I wanted to do a basic insurance terminology, so we're all on the same page. So um, I'm recording this so I can use it for reference later. But I'm just going to go through, and this is like the most boring basic stuff, but it'll be important to lay the foundation for later. So a beneficiary. A beneficiary is the person that's named in the insurance policy. It's not necessarily the person paying the policy, it's the person named in the policy who's going to receive the coverage. If I have a family plan and my son is a beneficiary, I'm paying the plan, but he receives the coverage. A provider. So as a physical therapist, I'm a medical provider. I'm the person providing the service who may or may not be reimbursed by the insurance policy. So we as physical therapist assistants, we are providers. Insurance premium is the amount paid every month, regardless of whether you use the insurance coverage or not. So if your insurance premium is $250, you pay that every month, or you pay it quarterly, or you pay it annually, no matter whether you use the insurance coverage or not. The out-of-pocket, it's referring to what you were paying. It usually is in addition to the premium. They usually don't include premium payments in your out-of-pocket. So for example, if you have a deductible and you see a physician, a specialist, and you pay $120, that is your out-of-pocket. That goes toward usually an out-of-pocket max. But the $250 monthly premium you pay does not generally go toward any out-of-pocket max. So out-of-pocket usually refers to deductible, copay, coinsurance. So the deductible, that's the amount you pay before your insurance starts to kick in. It could be $500, $1,000. There are high deductible plans as high as $5,000 or $11,000. But the deductible is usually what's paid first by the beneficiary before coverage begins. It's separate from your premium. Your premium does not apply toward your deductible. Coinsurance. Once you've met your deductible, if your plan has a coinsurance or a copay, the coinsurance is usually a percentage amount. It could be 15%, 20%, 30%, and it's typically a percentage of the allowed amount. So if a provider bills $100 and your insurance contract reduces that to $75 and you have a 10% coinsurance, you will pay $7.50. But coinsurance is generally a percentage of the allowed amount. A copay is usually a flat fee. It could be $10, $30, $50. It's usually a flat fee per visit or per occurrence. Some plans require that you pay your full deductible and then the copay kicks in. Other plans require that you pay the copay from the beginning, regardless of what's happening with your deductible. But a copay is generally a fixed dollar amount per visit. So the allowed amount. The allowed amount mainly applies to in-network providers. If I sign a contract with a third-party payer and I say for 1 unit of therapeutic exercise, I'm going to bill $40, but I will accept $21 in reimbursement. $21 is the allowed amount that I've agreed to accept for that third-party payer's beneficiary. The contract adjustment then is the difference between the allowed amount and the billed amount. So in the example, if I bill $40 for a unit of therapeutic exercise, the contracted rate, what I accept, the allowed amount is $21. The contract adjustment is $40. The billed amount minus the $21 that I accept, $19. $19 essentially is what I reduce the $40 charge by. $19 does not get collected by anyone. It does not get paid by anyone. It is a discounted rate. So back to out-of-pocket. Most plans have what's called an out-of-pocket max. For example, it could be a $5,000 out-of-pocket max. It's the total amount paid by the beneficiary. Typically includes deductible, coinsurance, co-pays, It does not include premium payments, so your monthly payment does not go toward your out-of-pocket max. But once the out-of-pocket max has been met, then typically the insurance carrier will pay 100% of the allowed amount for any additional medical coverage. And we'll talk about some scenarios where that comes into play. So an in-network provider is a medical provider that's chosen to sign a contract with a third-party payer. In the agreement, they usually agree to a pre-negotiated rate, and that was in the example, if I bill $40 normally, I accept a $20 reimbursement. These service providers have also agreed to specific standards of care. I know that certain insurance carriers want certain documentation, certain authorizations, other regulations that I have to abide by in exchange for being in their network, which in theory at least would provide me some exclusivity to that third-party payer's network of beneficiaries. The contracted fee is typically less than the standard out-of-network bill rate. So that's where if a consumer goes to a healthcare provider and the bill rate for a unit is $40, if it's a non-participating or out-of-network provider, that consumer may be billed the full $40 amount. If I'm in-network, I cannot charge that consumer more than the agreed upon rate, which in this example was $21. Out of network, this term refers to medical providers that have not contracted with an insurance plan. Services from out of network providers are not covered by insurance plans unless those plans specifically state that they will cover medical services provided by an out of network provider. Typically PPOs and other plans will have some sort of limited coverage for out of network providers, but HMOs typically do not. So as with anything, the more you pay in monthly premiums, usually the more out-of-network coverage that's available to you, but it's always going to be stated in the insurance contract that you are buying as the beneficiary. So let's talk about an example. Mrs. Jones pays $290 a month in insurance premium, and Mrs. Jones is a PIC patient. Her plan includes a $2,000 deductible and a 20% coinsurance. Her plan has a $5,000 out-of-pocket max. Now, when we call to check physical therapy coverage, this is totally a reasonable example of what we would get, the information we would get over the phone. And so now as the physical therapy providers, we need to put together some sort of mental plan. So what does this mean? What is going to be the cost for Mrs. Jones? What will we do when she comes or before she comes for her first evaluation?